Hello everyone, welcome to this episode 3 of Weekly Delights. We are going to discuss a very important topic today, that is congenital adrenal hyperplasia. We'll be looking at a clinical case, and based on that we'll be discussing some important points and concepts related to the topic. So let's start with a clinical case scenario given to us. So let's have a quick look at this clinical case scenario. So if you look at the clinical case given to us, we are having a 1-day-old baby who has been noted of ambiguous genitalia by the parents, and the medical history denotes that the neonate was delivered by cesarean section at 39 weeks, and after the delivery the obstetrician signed the baby as a male child. As a male child. Then you are having a family history where everything is absolutely fine, where the father is healthy, mother has been a multi-gravida, so this is the second child to the mother. The first child was a baby girl who was absolutely fine. The mother is not having any medical history. Drugs also, there is no any history of any drugs during pregnancy, no any drug abuse or toxic contact. Now what is important to note is the physical examination in this patient. You can see that the baby is 3.9 kg in weight. Apgar score was 9 at both 1 minute and 5 minute. Ambiguous genitalia, that is clitoromegaly, partially fused labioscrotal folds are observed, and the cardiovascular and respiratory system is absolutely normal. Now the points that we need to note down over here are that this is a 1-day-old baby, and this 1-day-old baby at delivery by the obstetrician was called to be a male child, but on examination we can see clitoromegaly and we can see partial labioscrotal fold fusion. This is all which is pointing towards our chief complaint itself, that is ambiguous genitalia. Now if someone asks you that in a 1-day-old child, clinically and history of complaint pointing towards ambiguous genitalia, remember the most common cause of ambiguous genitalia is congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Always remember, the most common cause of ambiguous genitalia is congenital adrenal hyperplasia. This is what is the clinical scenario. Now let's look at the intricacies of this topic. Now this topic is a bit going towards biochem, but the main point is that you need to understand and know only the important steps which are clinically correlative. Now in front of you, you are having a big chart or big flow chart of a biochemical process, that is the steroid pathway. Now the concept that you need to know is that cholesterol is utilized to produce something called as pregnenolone, and this utilization is under the effect of an hormone, that is ACTH, adrenocorticotropic hormone. Now the thing you need to remember is how the steps progress, just to understand the pathogenesis and the two important enzymes that you can see marked in red here. Now what the process is, that pregnenolone gets converted into its 17 hydroxy form, which then gets converted into DHEA, whereas this pregnenolone also gets converted into progesterone, which further progresses to its 17 hydroxy form, which in turn by indirect pathway gets converted into testosterone, which is a major androgen. Now simultaneously, now what is going to be is important over here only. Progesterone gets converted into deoxycortisone. whereas 17 hydroxy, being a hydroxy compound of progesterone itself, the same enzyme will convert that 17 hydroxy compound into a all, that is an alcoholic compound. So there will be deoxycortisone converted into deoxycortisol. So the overall thing remains the same. The ons are getting converted into alls. Okay, so the ons are getting converted into alls. Okay, then this deoxycortisone gets converted into cortisone, whereas deoxycortisol gets converted into cortisol. Now the thing happens is that this cortisone will be utilized to produce aldosterone, will be used to produce aldosterone, which is an important and a major mineralocorticoid, which helps in reabsorption of sodium and water, right? The two enzymes that are key to understand this topic are these two, 21 hydroxylase and 11 beta hydroxylase. So as you can see, the conversion of ons to alls, that is ketones to alcohols, is by 21 hydroxylase, whereas those ons and alls getting converted into their cortisolic forms is going to be 11 beta hydroxylase. It's that simple. Now the point comes over here is, what is this important about these two enzymes? So remember, the most common enzyme to be deficient in case of congenital adrenal hyperplasia is 21 hydroxylase, whereas the second most common is going to be 11 beta hydroxylase enzyme. Now the thing is, what is the pathogenesis and why we are learning this? Just try and look at this image and try to understand that if you are having a deficiency of 21 hydroxylase, then this pathway will be blocked. As you can see, this conversion pathway, this first conversion pathway will be blocked, as a result of which the progesterone levels will increase, which in turn will lead to increase in 17 hydroxyprogesterone, and that in turn will cause a very high rise in testosterone levels, because the entire this integrated pathway is getting converted towards the formation of androgens. Similarly, if you are having a deficiency of 11 beta hydroxylase, what will happen? Deoxycortisone and deoxycortisol levels will increase, and being unstable, some of them take part in the activity and some of them in an equilibrium return back to their original form, that is 7 hydroxyprogesterone, and as a result of this, indirectly again there will be increased hype and production of androgens. This is what is basically the pathogenesis. So at the end, the main thing that is going to happen is there is going to be a very close rise in androgen. Now we need to understand that what is going to happen because of this increase in androgen. That is what we need to know. Okay, now the first thing that is going to happen is, as there is going to be reduced production of cortisol, this will in turn lead to stimulation of ACTH. So conjugated increase in ACTH because of reduction in cortisol will take place, and this increase in ACTH is going to cause adrenal hyperplasia. This is going to cause adrenal hyperplasia. Second thing that you are going to have, there will be very high levels of progesterone. Third thing that you can see from the earlier slide is that in both the pathways, this compound 17 hydroxyprogesterone is increasing a lot, and this is why this compound, that is 17 hydroxyprogesterone, will also increase and definitely this will be more specific because there are many other conditions where progesterone levels might increase, and that's why this is considered for screening of congenital adrenal hypoplasia. Now the most important thing that is going to happen is increase in androgens. Now what these androgen hypes will basically do, that is the point of concern. Now let's discuss a very simple concept over here first. Now normally what happens during development, during development of a fetus, what happens, testosterone gets converted into a compound which is called as DHT, dihydrotestosterone, with the help of an enzyme called 5-alpha reductase. And if this testosterone levels are high enough, this leads to increased production of dihydrotestosterone. Now what is the role of dihydrotestosterone is, dihydrotestosterone is responsible for development of male genitalia, and that is what is an important problem. If there is a female fetus, and then the female fetus is having congenital adrenal hypoplasia, what will happen? Because of increase in androgens, there will be male type genitalia. This is what we call as ambiguous genitalia. I hope it's quite simple and understandable. Now the matter of concern is how to differentiate between the two enzymes. Now the first possibility that we can have is going to be 21 hydroxylase deficiency, right? So if there is a 21 hydroxylase deficiency, what is going to happen? The cortisol levels will go down, as a result of which the ACTH levels will be high. There will be increase in progesterone, there will be increase in 17 hydroxyprogesterone. All of this will remain same. Also there will be increase in androgen, and so signs and symptoms of hyperandrogenism, so being in the developmental stage, and ambiguous genitalia, precocious puberty, virilization, and short stature, these will be the manifestations that will develop. Apart from that, a very important thing is that there will be low levels of mineralocorticoid, because you have seen that mineralocorticoid, that is aldosterone, is getting produced from cortisone, and as there is 21 hydroxylase deficiency, neither the cortisone will be formed nor the aldosterone will be formed by the pathway. And that's why, since their levels of mineralocorticoids are low, this patient will have sodium water wasting, and that's why the patient will have hypotension. This is a very important feature to be understood. Now the second point I want you to understand is about the second most common enzyme, that is 11 beta hydroxylase. Now what happens with the 11 beta hydroxylase is, the pathway is somewhat similar. There are low levels of aldosterone, there are low levels of cortisol, there are increased levels of androgens, but the main point that you need to understand over here is there is going to be increased level of deoxycortisone, because there will be increased level of deoxycortisol. We have seen that 17-hydroxyprogesterone is getting converted into deoxycortisol by 21-hydroxylase, which then gets converted into cortisol by 11-beta-hydroxylase, and that's why your cortisol levels are low, and because of this step being blocked, the deoxycortisol levels increase. But the important point over here is, which is to be considered, that deoxycortisol has a high mineralocorticoid activity. So there are two possibilities that you will be getting in this case, is that you will either have a balance in the mineralocorticoid activity that will cause a normal blood pressure, or you will get an overwhelmed mineralocorticoid activity, overwhelm and increased mineralocorticoid activity. That is what is going to cause hypertension. So the main feature which helps you to differentiate between the causative enzyme is blood pressure of the child. If you are suspecting congenital adrenal hyperplasia and the patient is having hypotension, the enzyme suspected to be deficient is 21-hydroxylase, whereas if there is hypertension or the blood pressure is normal and the sodium levels in your electrolyte assay are also normal, then you are going to think of 11-beta-hydroxylase. Now let's discuss how to screen a patient of TH. I already told you that the main enzyme that you are going to use for screening is going to be 17-hydroxyprogesterone, not enzyme, the substrate. So the substrate which you will be using is 17-hydroxyprogesterone. The thing is that you have to check the levels. If the levels are less than 300 nanograms per deciliter, you can rule out congenital adrenal hyperplasia because it is a definitive normal level. If the levels of CAH are 300 to 800 nanograms per deciliter, you will do a diagnostic test, whereas if the levels are more than 800 nanograms per deciliter, then you will be doing a confirmed diagnosis of congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Now the thing happens is that what is going to be the diagnostic test for congenital adrenal hyperplasia? Now for congenital adrenal hyperplasia, the diagnostic test is going to be something called as ACTH stimulation test. Means what? You will give ACTH to the patient, and after half an hour, if the levels of this compound, that is 17-hydroxyprogesterone, they increase, then it is going to be congenital adrenal hyperplasia. This is what is going to be the screening for this patient. Now looking at our patient's case scenario back again, now I have done a routine protocol hematology and biochemical assay for the patient, being the physician to whom the patient has been brought. If you look at the patient, the hematological counts relatively look to be towards a normal level, but if you look at the electrolyte count, the main thing to worry is going to be of sodium level. You can see that the sodium levels are relatively low, not a definitive hyponatremia, but relatively low levels of sodium. And if you check, the cortisol levels are also low. My other suspected endocrinological problems such as hypothyroidism, and that's why I have talked about TSH and T4 in this patient also, and you can see in the report they are absolutely in the normal level. The cortisol level is low, and our screening protocol is that a hero for diagnosis 17 hydroxyprogesterone levels are increased, sorry, they are highly increased. You can see they are almost very high in a definitive count of diagnosis, and so I can establish a diagnosis of congenital adrenal hyperplasia. Now, based on the electrolyte problem that you can see, that I am having a relatively low level of sodium, so this could be, okay, this could be a case of 21 hydroxylase deficiency. This could be a case of 21 hydroxylase deficiency, possibly, right? So now the next thing is that after being identified that my patient is having congenital adrenal hyperplasia, how will I treat? So the main thing that I'm going to do is that first is I am having a cortisol defect. Yes, my cortisol levels are low, so I have to treat them. Then my mineralocorticoid levels are low, so mineralocorticoid levels have to be corrected. And because of ambiguous genitalia, there will be some problem related to the baby, so I need to surgically correct them. So surgical correction of ambiguous genitalia has to be done at or after 4 to 5 years of age. Okay, usually done at 4 to 5 years of age. For mineralocorticoid deficiency, I will be starting fludrocortisone for the patient, right? Fludrocortisone, which is an important mineralocorticoid. Whereas for cortisol defect, the thing that I need to do is very important. If the in the childhood, I will be giving hydrocortisone, whereas at puberty we will be taking prednisolone preferred over dexamethasone. Okay, so basically hydrocortisone is able to cross the placenta. This is the first reason. That's why during puberty I don't want to harm the possible pregnancy, and that's why during puberty or after puberty we will put the patient on prednisolone preferred over dexamethasone based on their duration of activity. That is the main concern that I'll deal of. Now, a special scenario is that what will you do if you have a female who already has been diagnosed earlier with congenital adrenal hyperplasia and now she is pregnant. Okay, so she's a female previously diagnosed with CH and now she is pregnant. What you will do? So basically the treatment for this patient is again going to be hydrocortisone. The reason is that this doesn't cross placenta. This is going to be the main thing. But you should also worry of the child, because this could be an inherited condition. The child may also be abnormal. So at about 10 weeks, so as per the guidance protocols, at 10 weeks you will perform FISH, that is FISH, fluorescein in situ hybridization, or you can do chorionic villus sampling. Any of the two has to be done, which will tell you about the baby. Now what you will do after this? Now after this, remember, if it is a male fetus, or based on the fluorescent in situ hybridization or chorionic villus sampling, if it is an unaffected female, then the treatment that has to be given to this child, that is to this mother, is you have to continue hydrocortisone, and this hydrocortisone is going to be for the benefit of mother, because it is not going to cross the placenta and go to the baby. So just the treatment of the CH of the mother is the matter of concern, right? But the next thing is that if I can get an affected female, if I'm getting an affected female, in that case definitely I want to do something that will take care of the child also. I have to provide cortisol to the child also, so that the child's prognosis becomes better and possibility of development of CH is less. And that's why if it's an affected female fetus, then I am going to give dexamethasone. The reason, dexamethasone can now easily go and cross to the placenta and will help the upbringing and development progression in the child. This is what is going to be the management in this special case of pregnancy. So that's all about the important points that I could give in this topic. Let me know in the comments your reviews and any requested topics for the future. If you like this video, do like this and subscribe the channel. Thanks a lot.